Okay, we're back. Gonna work on these heads now. So we'll take these apart here, see what kind of surprises we have in these. So we have our spring compressor right here we use. Lots of different variations of these things. This is the one I like using for this job. It's a highly modified British one. The Harley one's a little bit too big for sportsters. I don't like using it. Your normal knucklehead style painted one. Okay, so this has some kind of aluminum collar. What looks to be a stock spring to me. So I'm not sure what they're doing that for. It doesn't gain you anything. Give you a weaker part than Harley used. Aluminum's a little bit lighter, but not gaining all that much. Okay, the exhaust valve appears to be loose. You can hear it squishing around in there. So you wipe off the stem so you can see what's in there. It's like a PM valve, so it's a good quality valve. Put it in a little bit loose. It's hard to see the valve seat because it's not very evenly done. It's right there on the very outside edge. Yeah. Not too good of a valve seat. That's about normal. So I do my heads a little differently, so I'm kind of picky on how I do my stuff. You want to get your maximum power out of these motors, you got to do everything right. And there's two things that make horsepower: valve seats and piston rings. If they leak, you have no power. Doesn't matter what else you do in the motor. Appears to be the same combination of parts. Check another PM valve. Can't even see a wear mark on the face. Looks like it's hitting right on the very outside edge right here. Very outside edge, like overhanging. So there's your valve seat sealing areas. It's in a big hole right here. I cut this hole out so it flows a lot better. People like to put these valves down in big holes. They don't do much. Intake guide's a little loose, but it doesn't feel too bad. Might be able to reuse it. We'll see after we clean everything up and measure it, but we'll reuse the valves at least. Springs are fine for stock type cams, so we'll just use a stock type cam. They put valve seals on it, but they didn't clearance it for valve seals, so when the seal sits on top of your lower collar, you have no room for valve lift. So if you got anything more than the stock 390 lift cam, it won't clear. And even then it's questionable. This had stock cams in it that are reground, or cheated on anyway, not ground. Buffed on. That came off pretty easy. I Loctite them on so they stay on better. These are plus 50 thou clearance row lower collars, it looks like. A lot thinner than stock. So that helps sink it down, give you a little bit of valve seal clearance, but that helps a little bit. But it also unjacks the valve springs, so you have no valve spring tension, which is not good. So there's no reason for this stuff because the motor is in stock on the inside. All that did was give you less valve spring tension, which makes the motor, the valves float sooner. It was a little tighter. So as you tear these things apart, you got to look at everything so you know what's going on. So, same parts. Gives you an idea what they did in the whole motor. It looks like they're row valve guides probably. Kibble white valves. Alright, so you need to do a normal valve job on these. They're unported, so they got plenty of room for improvement. Core shift looks pretty nice. It's pretty symmetrical on exhaust. That's kind of rare, so that's good. Exhaust port doesn't look too bad. It's stock, but it's a good set of heads for making power with. So at least you got something nice to work with for once. Unexpected bonus. This one's a normal offset. It's not even, not concentric. It's real thick on one side here and thin on this side. That's how they normally are. That just means you have to cut more before it looks better. These are probably going to be the same, I would expect. Yeah, these just have no tension at all in the valve springs. I don't know if you can see how little tension it takes to turn the screwdriver. One finger like this is all it takes to compress your valve spring. That's just not enough tension. These things probably had like 25 pounds pressure on the seat, I bet. Real low. If you rev this motor up much at all, it would just start floating the valves. That's why you don't put those high lift parts in stock motors. It's actually a lot worse than stock. Feels a little tighter. See, that's what happens when you float the valves. You burr up the valve stem so the valve don't want to come out. It beats up the keepers up in here and you can't get them out. See that tie-up marker right there? I just yanked it out. Yeah. So it's like hammering out with a valve with a. When the valve floats, it's like beating on the top of the stem here with a hammer, and it tries to knock the keepers off. Pretty much tears up everything in the valve train. Not very good. Sunk down in a big hole here, just like the other one. It's hard to see in the dark, but you can hear my finger catching across that whole area, and it's a real deep lip. So you have to open the valve up probably 150 to 200,000 just to get the thing where it's flowing, because it's in a big hole. Here's our valve spring tension again. See, it's not very much tension. Once I get it compressed to about 50,000, I gotta go about 2 fingers. You know, that's where it should have been to start with. So if you actually measure the tension, it would scare you. This motor definitely would not have been running much longer. I'd give it another 100 miles, it would have came apart from multiple different things. You see this one, the valve seat's right in the center of the valve face here. You can see where it is. The other one you couldn't see any mark at all because it was in the wrong spot. Now I put the marks a lot higher up because I want to take full advantage of our valve head. When you put the valve seat halfway down the margin in here like that, you might as well just put a smaller valve in it because you're not using a valve. And a lot of people do that. Make the valve real small even though it's big. Yep, all the same parts again. So they're consistently wrong. Alright, but everything can be fixed, not a problem yet. Yep. Okay, now we get the rocker boxes, these things. These are nice and chrome, so I'm putting the cardboard here so I don't scrape them up. Now the first thing you want to do in the rocker arms is not take the nut off. You want to take the plug out over here because that has to be tight to get this out. You got to use a zip gun to do it. Quick shot of the power is what does it. Okay, so first thing we do, we pull it out and we see what we got in there. Appears to be a well squashed O-ring. It's now rectangular shaped. It's really soft rubber though, kind of weird feeling. Not softer than normal. They all came out pretty nice. Sometimes you gotta go back and forth, tightening up this nut to loosen this nut. Now the real hard ones, you get the 1/2 inch zip gun out because it has a lot heavier hammering action going. It'll pop them. If that doesn't work, you got to put them in the vise, the shaft in the vise, and work on it more. And the really nasty ones, you got to get the torch out and heat them up to get them out. I hate those ones. Those are a pain in the ass to get out. And usually they, when you got to go that much work to get them out, they're usually damaged. Okay, so this here we're just going to do a 5/8 socket and pull these off now. Okay, take care of all of these. Okay, now you got a washer here, you got to pull this off. It's a little sealing washer is what that's for, actually. Now this one here had 2 washers on here for some reason. So I don't know if they screwed up and didn't see the other one, or there was a problem, this was too deep and bottoming out the nut. Hard to tell. This one has the same issue, it's got 2 of them on here. This one has 2, so only the one had the first one had 1, the other ones have 2 on. I'm not sure what that's about. Probably something not right. Okay, now to take the shafts out. A lot of people take a Phillips screwdriver, jam it in here and beat on it. That spreads it out and then it doesn't want to come out the hole. Let's see, is there a washer in there? No. What I did was I took a center punch and I radius cut it. So now it's in ball like the end of a push rod. And I push it on here and it hits right here in the taper in the middle. It pushes evenly on it and knocks it right out. And it rarely ever swedges it bigger so it doesn't come out. And it doesn't hurt the shaft at all, which is kind of important. So anyway, so it does no damage, which is a good thing. Okay, once your shafts are out, you can pull your rubbers out of the way. Take a quick look at them and throw them away. Shafts should be nice and clean when you pull them out. These here are all rusty. This whole motor had a lot of moisture in it for some reason. Probably cleaned it a bunch with a hose. So the shafts appear to be brand new. At least that one does. Now you have a washer and a spring here, so when you pull these up, you got to kind of hold those so they don't pop out and lose them. So these are your thrust washer and spring. So instead of shimming it like a big twin, you just have a spring on here all the time that does it. Once you get that out, you can pull the rock arm out and you can look at it. So you can already see the wear mark that's going in there. And these appear to be brand new rocker arms. And you can already see where the metal that's inside the pressurized oil is putting up inside your rocker arms and chewing up those bushings already a little bit. They're not too bad yet, but you can definitely see the wear marks in there. So when they get worse, it's worse on it. It doesn't want to go on there either, so there's burrs inside the bushing or there's burrs on this shaft. So it's definitely got rust on it. So all this stuff, I'll have to clean this all up and give it a quick flash hone on the hone to make sure these go down easier. That way I get these, make sure these are round and don't have a bunch of crap in them. Because if there's any metal embedded in that bush, it'll chew up your shaft, so you want to get that out of there. So even though these are all new parts, they're already used parts now for sure because of all the crap in them. So, another one, the shaft is tight coming out. I don't know if you can see the marks in here already when I was vertically sliding it. So there's grit in the oil inside there already. It's already chewing it up as you're bringing it out. See the wear mark on the tip already, so these have to be reground. This one has more wear in the bushing area in here. So once again, that's just a lot of metal coming out. So this has to be all cleaned up and redone. These are all the same. What a shocker. You want to look at the push rod tips and make sure they're not all eaten up. These are nice and smooth and polished, which is good. Two of these have holes in it for squirting, lubricating the valves, and the other two don't. So the exhausts, they have the squirters on, the intakes don't. On the race bike, I use a squirter version on both. That way it lubricates, keeps my valve springs cooler. Nice upgrade, assuming you got oil pressure. If you don't have any oil pressure, it makes it worse. Alright, so these all look alright. So that looks good. So now our next thing we got to figure out what we're going to do, we're going to have to fix these studs right here. So we're going to have to go take these and put them in the vise and heat them up and get them out of here. So I'm going to go set that up and then we'll be back.